The alien could be erased. The erroneous continuity had proven that. But there was another foe waiting in the void. One older than most human civilizations. One that did not negotiate. One that did not fear extinction. The Orks. If the erroneous war hardened Imperial doctrine, the Orks would test its limits. The Imperium did not discover the Orks. Humanity rediscovered them. During the Dark Age of technology, mankind had encountered greenskin empires across scattered regions of the galaxy. Even then, they had been numerous, aggressive, difficult to eradicate. Old Night had not weakened them, it had strengthened them. Where human worlds collapsed into isolation and regression, Ork empires thrived in anarchy. Because anarchy was their natural state. They did not require unity. They did not require stability. They required only conflict. And the galaxy provided it in abundance. Early Crusade fleets entered fringe systems, encountered signs of devastation. Human colonies reduced to ash. Astropathic silence. Debris fields composed of ramshackle metal and drifting wreckage. Then came the first sightings. Asteroids converted into engines of war. Ships that appeared barely functional, yet moved with terrifying speed. Boarding torpedoes packed with screaming, green-skinned warriors. The Orks did not declare war, they just attacked. The Imperium labelled the early conflicts suppression campaigns, the term implying containment, correction, reduction of threat. The reality was apocalyptic. Entire systems were found under Ork domain. Planets converted into industrial wastelands. Atmospheres blackened by constant warfare. The Orks did not conquer as humans did. They consumed. Resources were stripped. Populations enslaved or butchered. Everything repurposed for war. The Legiones Astartes were deployed in strength. What followed were some of the most brutal compliance wars of the early Crusade. The Iranians had been intelligent strategists, structured, adaptive. The Orks were far different. Individually reckless, collectively unstoppable. For every warlord slain, another rose. For every fortress destroyed, scrap was gathered and rebuilt. They did not fear casualties. They did not require supply lines in the conventional sense. Their biology sustained them. Their spores ensured they returned. Worlds declared cleansed would erupt in greenskin uprising years later. The Imperium began to understand a terrible truth. Orks were not a civilization. They were an ecosystem. Standard Imperial Army regiments struggled to contain planetary infestations. Ork physiology made them resilient beyond human norms. Massed artillery became standard doctrine. Flamers and heavy bolters were prioritised. Astartes legions adapted quickly. Close quarters assault became a necessity rather than preference. Chainblades roared without pause. Entire companies disappeared beneath green tides, only to be avenged by orbital bombardment. The Mechanicum classified the Ork threat as self-perpetuating. Eradication would require not just victory, but saturation. These were not isolated warbands. Across the expanding frontier, the Crusade encountered multiple Ork empires, independent, warlord-led, each believing itself destined for galactic dominance. Some controlled dozens of systems, others hundreds. Each required full explanatory fleets to dismantle. The Great Crusade, still young, was forced to divert enormous resources. What had begun as reunification became survival. The Orks were not a rival ideology. They were a perpetual war engine. Records from these campaigns speak of staggering casualties. Entire army regiments annihilated. Astartes companies reduced to handfuls of survivors. Ships lost to suicide bombing swarms. And yet the Orks did not diminish. Victory over one empire revealed another beyond the next warp jump. The Crusade's momentum slowed, not halted, but blooded. The Emperor's vision of swift unification met its first truly enduring obstacle. From these early wars, the Imperium learned critical lessons. Orks must never be underestimated. Warlords must be decapitated quickly to fracture cohesion. Industrial centres must be annihilated from orbit. Worlds must be monitored for spore resurgence. The concept of total planetary sterilisation became increasingly accepted. Extermination was not cruelty, it was efficiency, and even then, it was temporary. Across the galaxy, something was happening. The disruption of smaller empires created power vacuums. Warlords absorbed survivors. Warbands coalesced into greater hordes. Every suppression campaign seemed to compress Ork power rather than eliminate it. In the galactic north, reports began to circulate of a warlord unlike the others. Smarter, stronger. His domain grew rapidly. Systems fell not in chaotic raids, but in organised conquest. The Imperium took notice. The name of that empire would become legend. Ullanor. But that reckoning was still to come. The early Ork suppression campaigns revealed something fundamental about the galaxy. Some enemies could be destroyed. Others could only be fought. The Orks did not seek ideology. They did not corrupt from within. They did not negotiate. They simply were. A species engineered in some forgotten age for endless conflict. And the Great Crusade, built on conquest, had found its perfect mirror. Where humanity expanded, the Orks gathered. Where worlds burned, they flourished. Where war raged, they multiplied. The green tide did not retreat. It simply waited. The first Ork suppression campaigns did not end the Ork threat. They defined it. From this point forward, every Imperial commander understood the Orks would never truly be gone. They would rise again in greater numbers under stronger warlords. And one day, the Crusade would face the largest Ork empire the galaxy had seen in millennia, at Ullanor. But that was still the future. For now, the Imperium marched onwards, bloodied, hardened, and fully aware that some wars are not won, only endured.